Okay, welcome to our live webinar today, everyone. We're here on June 25th, 2020, and today's webinar, Keeping a Good Team Together, Top Strategies to Engage and Motivate Your Food Service Team as you adapt to a lingering pandemic. My name is Kim Roble. I am the Great Lakes West Non-Commercial Business Solutions Specialist, and I have with me Allison Stock, who is a dietitian in our Nutrition Resource Center. She's going to be helping me co-host this webinar this afternoon. So for our roughly 1 hour that we'll be together this afternoon, we plan to discuss the importance of labor amid this pandemic. We'll meet our operator panel and hear their individual perspectives. And finally, learn about a few specific Gordon Food Service tools and solutions that can assist you in your labor retention strategies. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to start by talking about the importance of labor. If you didn't realize prior to COVID that labor was a big deal, I think it's fair to say that now, after having been living through this turmoil, you likely realize how very important labor and your team is for your operation. Yet let's think back to 3 very long months ago. Prior to COVID, labor was already an important topic, as we in the food service industry had been facing labor shortages for some time. We were already feeling the effects of those pressures. And now, here we are in June, still amid the pandemic, and yes, the labor market continues to be tough, but it's also very different. For example, back in April, we lost 1.4 million healthcare jobs. And while there are some healthcare jobs starting to return today, it's been a very gradual return. Healthcare operators are still struggling with the fact that a lot of positions continue to remain unfilled, and there are still a lot of people without a job. Looking at education, K-12 teams were reduced to adjust to social distancing needs or budget constraints during school closures, and the staff that remained on site did continue to feed students throughout the spring via emergency feeding waivers. And now, many districts continue to feed students throughout the summer with additional feeding programs and waivers, but these smaller, overworked teams are by now weary and tired. In college and university settings, in-person classes were canceled and students and staff were encouraged to stay or go home. Yet the food service department that remained on site was left with only skeleton crews to feed what was a significantly smaller number of students and faculty that may have remained on campus. In sum, many of you are going or have gone through the exercise of furloughing or reducing staff. And as an industry, we now face a job market where there are fewer people working, and it is hard to find people who are willing to return to work in such a volatile, high-risk, high-stress setting. So you may be asking yourself why this webinar has such a focus on staffing and retention instead of recruiting and hiring. And additionally, you may be thinking to yourself that you have been so focused on getting through each and every day that staff retention strategies are the last things you have time to be thinking about. However, considering the importance of labor and keeping your current staff, which is one of your most important resources, staff retention should be one of the first things on your mind. Keeping your team and investing time, energy, and dollars in retention efforts will help your operation exponentially in the long run. So why is it so important to keep these positions filled on your team with the right people? Labor retention is critical for any business's success because it has such an impact on your overall operation. It affects customer satisfaction levels due to having or not having well-trained staff that know their job, have higher efficiency levels, as well as customer service skills. Having a strong knit crew can help increase staff morale and overall teamwork. In sum, these things can lead to higher reimbursement levels in healthcare and greater program participation in education. On the flip side, having enough well-trained staff can also prevent team members from having to work overtime and thus can prevent employee burnout, as well as decreased injuries that may have occurred simply because your staff was overtired or overworked. And of course, if you're keeping your positions filled, you aren't spending money on additional hiring and training costs. In fact, it's estimated that for every individual worker that you have to replace, that's $1,300 lost from your operation. So our goal today focuses on labor retention. We're going to be hearing real-world examples that our panel of operators are anxious to share with you all. These Gordon Food Service customers have done an incredible job throughout COVID to keep their staff safe, happy, motivated, and engaged while also maintaining or increasing job satisfaction levels. Today, they will share their individual stories from their own operations and what they've learned. And finally, we will wrap up by learning from Allison the specific Gordon Food Service tools that can support in this area with the resources that we have available at your fingertips. So now with that foundation laid, let's go ahead and meet the panel. We have Doug McAnallis, Food and Nutrition Services Director with IntegraCare, Lisa Yates, Director of Strategy and Administration at Notre Dame, and Don Bottenston, Food Service Director from Kankakee Schools in Illinois. Our first question that we posed to our operators was just to learn a little bit more about their background. Let's learn more. Please tell us about your food service program and your team. We'll go ahead and start with Doug. If you'd like to dive in, Doug, we'd love to hear about your operation.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. Hi, everybody. My name is Doug McAnallis, and I'm with a company called IntegraCare, and we're located in Wexford, Pennsylvania, just north of Pittsburgh. We manage, own, and operate 11 senior living, assisted living, and independent living communities throughout Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia. We currently have 2 communities under construction in Maryland. Currently, we have 149 food service team members throughout the 11 communities, and the staff include cooks, wait staff, dishwashers, executive chefs, and our dining experience directors. Since March, all of our residents who were served restaurant style in our main dining rooms have been served all 3 meals a day in their apartments. The transition to delivering the meals to residents' apartments from serving them in the dining room was basically overnight. And now we're at the point where we're starting to plan to the reopening process of our dining rooms. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Doug. Appreciate that background. Let's go ahead and head down to Dawn in Kankakee. Dawn, can you share a little bit about your school district?
Hi, yes, this is Dawn Bottenston. We are a school of 5,900 students. We're located just south of Chicago in Kankakee, Illinois. We are a CEP. We have 11 schools. Out of the 11, we have shifted to 4 locations serving starting March 17th. We haven't stopped. We're a 5-day service right now. I have about 55 regular staff members, and we went down to 25. And then starting July 1st, I'll be the only one in the office, so that should be a lot of fun. I think that's about it for right now.
Okay, thanks so much, Dawn. And if I don't forget to say later, good luck starting in July.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And finally, Lisa from Notre Dame, would you be able to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I am here representing the University of Notre Dame and our campus dining program here. We have more than 15,000 students, faculty, staff, visitors kind of served daily on campus. We have about 30 eating establishments, including dining halls, restaurants, some franchises that we operate, some cafes, a convenience store, a full production environment out at our Center for Culinary Excellence, and a bakery included. Also kind of about our program, we partner with a couple of our local colleges in our kind of tri-campus area right across the street, where we run the dining halls and the retail units there. And then we also have 5 religious houses that are on campus, kind of owned and operated by the Congregation of Holy Cross, but we provide the dining services for those houses. We have about 1,400 staff. That's about 630 regular full-time and part-time staff, another kind of 400 temps, about 400 students each semester. And from a campus perspective, we are the largest department on campus and we are self-operated. In terms of kind of what we've been doing since March has been a little bit interesting because we did, while we have a very large team since March, we dramatically scaled back the number of staff who were working on campus. We did have for a period of time a number of students that were still staying on campus prior to move out period. And we did provide kind of a really condensed food production operation, mostly with our management team producing the food for those operations. But then we also, our religious houses have continued to run this entire time and supporting the priests and brothers that live in the house there. So in total, of our probably 630 regular full-time and part-time staff, we've really kind of ratcheted down to about 100, 150 that have been working kind of consistently since March. And we are also kind of at that point where we're gearing up and ramping up to reopen some of our operations in July. So we will be bringing staff back as early as next week and the middle of July to start our operations back up with the new COVID priorities and functions that we all will deal with.
Well, great. Thank you all for that overview. As obviously, as the rest of our customers can see and hear, we have a great variety and different type of settings that we're working with. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to kind of our first nitty-gritty question. So many operators are working with a smaller food service team than what they had prior to COVID. And this could be because staff members needed to stay at home for safety or childcare reasons, or in some cases, operators have been forced to reduce their staff due to costs. What labor efficiency strategies have you implemented in your individual units? And we'll go ahead and this time, Lisa, I'm gonna let you go first. If you wanna share a little bit about what's going on at Notre Dame, we would love to hear that.
Sure. So labor efficiency strategies that we've been implementing and looking at, obviously first and foremost, we've been looking at a lot of different scenario planning that we've been doing, including kind of budget reduction exercises just to kind of be prepared through this. We've also been looking at our hours of operations in our units, looking at what are potential reductions of menus and services. As it relates to labor, we've also been kind of like many of us, I think, been looking at how do we utilize our labor a little bit differently, including cross-training and actually cross-sharing of staff across divisions. Also utilizing staff in positions that maybe they weren't initially hired into. So that creates some other additional challenges and complexities that we'll get into further on as well. But certainly the cross-training and sharing of staff has been kind of one of the key elements that we've been focusing on, in addition to those scenario planning and hours of operations and services review.
All right, great. Thank you, Lisa. I've heard a lot about cross-training and sharing of staff, so I think that's going to be a great strategy for all operators as we continue to move forward and hopefully out of this pandemic. Dawn in Kankakee, would you like to share what's happening in Kankakee?
So out of our 55 staff members, 31 of them have identified themselves as high risk. So we actually decided as a district to continue to pay them through the end of our school year, not worrying about labor too much. But we implemented at-home training, and we utilized 14 out of the 60 GFS trainings. The staff needed to make sure that they did at least 3 trainings a week that we provided. And we did 2 of the GFS trainings, and then we did a personal growth or a personal career growth strategy or training. And then with our staff that we have within that currently are working, we went to a 2-day shift or a 3-day shift where they did cross-train as well. and I have really buttoned down on what we've ordered. Up until probably about 2 weeks ago, we utilized every product that we had within the 11 schools. So we really didn't have to purchase anything as far as, you know, making food for the 1,200 plus meals that we were making a week, or a day, I should say. And we're just trying to really button down on what excess products that we're instead of buying too much, really utilizing our production numbers.
That's great. Thanks, Dawn. So I love to hear that not only were you efficient with the time that they had off and stayed at home, you tried to increase some of their training and knowledge base, as well as keep your food efficient from a menu standpoint. That's great. Doug, would you wrap us up with this question with what's going on at IntegraCare, please? Doug, you might still be on mute.
Sorry about that. You know, we didn't lay anybody off. It has just been a natural evolution in regard to the size of our staff. Since we're delivering meals to residents' apartments rather than waiting on them in the dining room, the delivery process to the apartments is not quite as labor intensive. So we can operate with less team members. So the loss of a few team members due to the issues with the pandemic, you know, can be managed easier. And much like Lisa, who talked about sharing staff and so forth, in many cases, the food service team members have been assigned to work a few hours a day doing things such as light housekeeping duties or assisting with laundry. And as a company, we made a decision to implement washing of all team member uniforms on site. And of course, you know, that includes food service, housekeeping, and resident care. So some of the food service departments have stepped up to assist with this new protocol. Then we make sure that food service don't handle the soiled laundry, but they will remove the clean laundry from the washer to place in the dryer, then sort and hang the laundry and place it in the designated uniform changing area. We've also implemented a daily walking program for our residents, and some of the food service team members in some of the communities will help with that as well. So there is cross training, there is sharing of staff, and it is food service that's working with others mostly.
Wow, sounds like a great all-around team effort there, Doug. I'm glad you're able to get your staff to be flexible and contribute to the overall organization. Let's move on to our next question. Many organizations are working with volunteers or have employees from other departments, which you all kind of just alluded to. Food service is often helping in some manner, and how are you, as well as how are you training them? I know some of you kind of alluded to this with your first question, but if you want to add anything, perhaps you have volunteers from other departments coming in, would love to hear about that. So we'll go ahead and we'll go back to Doug. Anything that you would also like to share here?
Yeah, we have had to share in some of our communities with a resident care. They've had to come and help us with meal deliveries. So again, like we're taking the meals to our residents in their apartments, and it's more efficient if 2 team members are manning the cart with the food and drink. Normally one person will take the meals into the resident to their apartment, while the other person on the with the delivery cart will pour the drinks and gather the desserts and so forth. Our assistance usually comes from resident care, and official training has not been essential in this duty since the resident care assistants know the residents well, and their standard operating procedures in regard to safety and sanitation are universal and in place. One thing we did do as far as training is concerned, which I'm really excited about, and I'm going to talk about a little more about it later, but as a company, we did change our general orientation process. The process of hiring at each of our communities has gone viral until the point where the potential candidates need to enter a secure section of the community to be drug and COVID-19 tested. In order to assist the communities with the general orientation process, a PowerPoint orientation was created. So every other week, we hold a company-wide general orientation, and that is usually run by the regional team members and the on-site executive operation officers. This encompasses team members from every discipline, not just food service, for each community. The newly hired team members are in one room at the community while retaining a safe social distance and wearing masks. And we use Teams as the viewing platform. And the communities log into Teams, and the regional team members present their PowerPoint sections of the orientation. So for training, this has really been helpful to the management team on site in each of our communities, that we take over the entire general orientation process for them so that they can be manning their communities, and we're handling this, off site. And it's worked out really well as a company. And when I say Teams, I mean Microsoft Teams, the program out there. So that's it.
Thanks, Doug, and thanks for clarifying that Microsoft Teams. I've seen the commercials, so I did catch what you were talking about, but I appreciate you diving in a little bit deeper there, and that sounds like quite the change that you guys have had to make. Lisa and Notre Dame, could you share?
Sure. So as we think about kind of volunteers, we have actually been a little bit of the situation where we have had some of our own teams that we've had to kind of cross share. The staff managers even have stepped in, even our non-operating managers, so our administrative managers and exempt staff jumping in to provide, production support, dishwashing support, our religious houses feeding those communities. But more interesting, I think, has been actually the flip side of what has happened, similar to what Doug said, is a number of our staff whose functions weren't allowing them to work remotely, because as a cook in a dining hall, you can't do your work from home during this time. So we've actually enacted and activated some of the staff to do and help support other areas of the mission on campus. So things like student move out. And we had staff who were stepping in to help as parking attendants, as ushers, as landscape support, completely out of their comfort zone. So we were very focused on how do we prepare and get our teams ready to help support in these areas, doing functions that maybe they've never had any experience doing. So when we thought about that, I think first and foremost, like many other food service operations, one of the unique challenges that you have are a number of just communication barriers. You have everything from, in our own department, we have 19 different languages spoken. We have varying levels of literacy, of education, computer skills, computer access. So it became important to focus on how do we communicate to even get these staff to come in to work. So we were really creative, I think, in trying to be flexible. Obviously, in training them and getting them ready, the primary focus for all of them was safety. And certainly for us is how do we keep everyone safe? So we really had a focus on the safety elements and bringing them onto campus to provide these support functions to other areas of campus. So we did things like, training via Zoom. Again, for those who had computer access, this worked. We realized it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So we also did some training videos. I think prior to COVID, it probably wouldn't have been our format, but you adapt and pivot and you're flexible during this time. And we did some training even with iPhones. And we created some Facebook groups where we could upload these videos to the groups. We did some in-person training where possible, where we were able to do socially and physical distancing. We developed some infographics primarily around safety and the component of if somebody I know knows somebody who's been tested positive for COVID, what does that mean? So we kind of created some infographics on the safety side to help train staff. We did pre-shift huddles. We also utilized a train the trainer model where we actually brought managers in for kind of a Zoom training, went over everything with all of the managers, and then our managers then in turn trained the staff on site to be doing some of these different functions like a parking attendant or ushers or landscape services. And I think the overwhelming, certainly there's apprehension from staff in the beginning for that because they're just not familiar, even down to I don't even know where this residence hall is. We're very thoughtful in how we kind of train, educate them, check them in to get them ready for the day. But the overwhelming response from the staff was they were excited, right? They were excited to be back and to see some of their colleagues, to be able to be a part of something on campus that maybe they didn't understand. That different side of the student aspect, I think, was phenomenal, and overall went really, really well. And that will be some things that we will consider to continue doing as we move forward.
Wow, what a great story, Lisa. Thanks so much. Dawn, would you like to share anything about Kankakee?
We were fortunate enough to have enough of our own food service staff to not have to pull from other departments. In the beginning, we did utilize our security staff to direct community members to come in and, honor the social distancing. As far as cross training, we did a little bit with them as far as food safety and the importance of the social distancing. Our staff, they did some cross training as well because we have cooks and head cooks, and then we brought in a couple of cafeteria helpers. So the cafeteria helpers really weren't really involved in the actual process of cooking on a daily basis during the normal school year. So they had a little crash course on helping plate up food and things of that nature. The real test is going to be when we go back in September, and we may have to pull and cross train from different departments and utilize our paraprofessionals to help deliver food. So our true testament will be when we go back in the fall.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that. And next up, staff morale. This is so important, and studies show that training, employee development, and staff satisfaction all impact your staff retention. What are you doing as it relates to training, employee development, or employee satisfaction to keep your team's spirits up and keep them engaged? Dawn, I'd like to start with you first this time.
So as far as staff morale, when we started the COVID-19 pandemic, the staff was in utter chaos, and I actually went to each of the schools and had daily conversations with each and individual staff members to make sure that, first and foremost, that they were, physically okay. What kind of support did they need from me to make sure that they're protected? I listened to their emotional, upsets about this, and being so fearful. So I felt like I was on the side of calming everyone down and reassuring them that they were going to be okay and that we were all going to be okay, and that we just had to take some precautions and be very diligent in following the guidelines and making sure that we are part of a team and that we all need to support each other, whatever level of fear we were at. And I thank them every day, and I still do, because I can't do my job and we can't feed the community and our kids if they are processing under fear. So I bought them t-shirts. I would buy them fun little snacks, and I bought them lunch a couple of times a week, and then breakfast. I do owe them donuts and coffee. I do have to say that that's on my list, and I have been reminded more than once. But that's just thanking them and being grateful that they actually showed up and care about the community.
Thanks, Don. That's great. I can certainly tell you that we can hear in your voice how much your team and your job and what you're doing means to you. So I'm confident in saying that I'm sure your staff has definitely felt appreciated and recognized throughout this. Great job. Doug, would you like to dive into IntegraCare and how you've managed this?
So try to imagine, we have our 11 communities, and all at one time we close these communities to all visitors, family members, deliveries, all of the healthcare agencies and vendors and so forth. This had an incredible impact for socialization for our residents. And then an even equally heavy impact to our team members as well. I mean, we had to shift gears immediately. And it's not just food service I'm talking about our resident care aides, housekeeping, and everybody. So we knew that we would have to start doing something to bring the morale of our team members up. As a company, we have approximately 600 team members company-wide. And since the onset of COVID-19, we have given away custom water bottles to each team member, and we filled them with lifesavers to let them know that they're lifesavers to us. We provided each of them with custom face masks along with our residents as well, each resident as well. And at Easter time, each of our team members received 2 pies, and they received Easter eggs that were filled with cash, personal day giveaways, and at each community we had a grand prize of 1 week's paid vacation. And I will say, for here at the home office, I won the 1 week's paid vacation, so I was really excited about that. Very grateful as well. We've given away an insulated shopping bag that was customized with our company logo, with a pan of Gordon Food Service macaroni and cheese. And for another week, we had another shopping bag filled with all the ingredients to serve and make a pasta dinner that included cavatappi pasta, marinara sauce, a loaf of garlic bread, and a cherry pie. We gave away a hamburger picnic meal to each of our 600 residents for Memorial Day. I mean team members, not residents. We provided a barbecue chicken wing meal with a baking potato, salad, and cookies. A few weeks ago, each team member with children under the age of 19 was provided with a gift. Some of the school-age preteen children received a backpack with school supplies and a $5 gift card from McDonald's. The teenagers of the team members received a $20 gift card for Walmart and the $5 McDonald's gift card. And then any team member with toddler got gifts of toys. And this is a really creative giveaway. The most recent giveaway that we've had is a $20 voucher for team members to go to a salon or a barber. So that has really gotten a lot of positive feedback from that. And you know what? I didn't plan all of these items either. We have our regional activities director and our marketing specialist who worked really, really hard on all of these gifts and incentives and so forth. And to be honest with you, shipping some of these things was almost more than the items themselves in regard to like the backpacks and things like that. So a lot of planning and teamwork was needed to accomplish all of these tasks. But I will say the rewards are many. You know, our team really feels appreciated and like the items they receive. They really are enjoying everything, and they're kind of, bowled over that we would go to so much effort to commend them and thank them. And I will say that our turnover rate has greatly declined during this event. I mean, everybody has hung on. Even under these uncertain times, they've been heroes, dedicated, coming to work to take care of our residents. And we really feel that taking these extra steps to recognize them has truly benefited us, and in the end run, benefited the residents that we care so much for.
Wow, well, those are two really tough acts to follow. You both have done incredible things to keep your team motivated and appreciated. Lisa, I hate to do this to you, but could you please follow that up and share what's happening at Notre Dame?
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, it just warms my heart to hear both Dawn and Doug talk about how they're recognizing the teams, because as a former HR professional myself, before I jumped into the operations side here, that's absolutely where my heart lies, is with our employees and staff morale and culture. And so I'm so excited to hear all of the things that everyone else is doing. We also have been very focused on this piece of, staff morale during this time. Also, kind of for us, a little bit more complicating our situation. We also are in the midst of a reorganization as a division. So we are pulling together kind of as one unified division. And so as many people know, that in itself can create some apprehension and some just unease at times. So we've been really focused on the staff morale piece, especially during COVID, given everything going on. We have done some things like employee care packages, as others have said on here, kind of every other week cadence for those who are here working. We're doing things just to show our gratitude, whether that's giving them kind of a Notre Dame swag bag full of gear of things. We've developed some fun kind of rest easy packs where we're getting them kind of this nice Notre Dame Sherpa pillow with an eye mask and saying, we know you're working really hard and we want you to get some rest. Snack bags, personalized thank you notes went a really long way, where we had others within the division who were working from home and not here on campus actually took time, and we had all of those individuals that were working on campus receive a personalized note from someone else within our division. We've really focused on continual learning opportunities for staff, so utilizing our online training platform to be able to continue to give growth opportunities and education. We've also utilized an anonymous feedback loop, so we can get real-time feedback from staff at any point in time, can log on to this website to give us, to tell us how they're feeling. What are they feeling? How are they doing? Any suggestions that comes for anybody who's working or who's working remotely or who's just not working at all right now. We've done a pulse survey that we sent out, obviously via text, phone, email, on the web, primarily to gauge how are staff doing and how are we doing to communicate. Are we communicating effectively during this time to give them the information that they want? As I mentioned earlier, we developed a Facebook group. So as many know, right, we have so many different communication barriers, and while many of our staff may not have computer access, or if they have access, they're probably not checking their university email, but they do have smartphones, a number of them, and they are on social media. So we created kind of a Facebook group to create engagement, and we have staff who've been kind of posting pictures about their remote working setup at home, or about their kids, or kind of e-learning for those who had kids that were doing e-learning, and it's been a great way to gauge their engagement. We do a weekly Facebook Live. That is with our vice president of the division, who comes on and has kind of topics that we communicate with every week. Staff can actually ask questions in the chat function and they get it answered right away, which has gone really well. Weekly kind of operations meetings with our managers to help provide consistent talking points. As many of you know, there's just so much information out there right now, and while we're craving all of it, sometimes it can be a lot to digest. So some of our university communication has been very, very thorough, but it also might be 9 pages if someone were to print it out, and our staff just, quite frankly, don't read all of them. So we then take that information, distill it down to kind of highlight the most important things that are relevant to them, and we share those talking points with our managers so that our managers can consistently make sure that staff have heard these important messages. And then just checking in, right, on a regular basis, at a minimum weekly or bi-weekly with staff. But again, really the focus on kind of 2 things: safety as the first priority, and then the second is just our motto internally within campus dining is people matter. And that people is our people, our team, right? We're a service industry, always focused on everyone else. but that means that we matter too. And so we've been really focused on making sure that our staff know that they matter, and we care through a number of different ways, such as Dawn and Doug shared.
Well, hearing you all talk about what you've done in your individual organization reminds me of a quote from Denise Morrison, who is the president and CEO of Campbell Soup Company. And she says the leader is the person who brings a little magic to the moment, and you all certainly have. And we're going to kind of wrap up this section of the webinar with just a quick snapshot of some of the things that we've heard that seem to be repeating themes throughout the industry. And these quick, simple morale boosters certainly go a long way beyond pay, and they can help your team members with that level of job satisfaction. Many of you, as well as many other customers, have shared with us that they are providing free meals to their staff, and they may have offered this as part of a perk or strategy to just supply something that is just a most basic human need. Many have set up small grocery stores or micro markets directly in their school, hospital, or senior living community, when this is just a convenient way for them to stock up on basic food or necessities. I've also seen things as simple as having a well-stocked snack and beverage cart available throughout the day. What's key in these and any additional perk that you offer is providing or doing something for your team in a way that's important to your staff. For some, it might be flexible scheduling for young college students or young parents. For others, it might be groceries or free childcare. For many of you, I think keeping your staff engaged and ensuring that they feel safe and know and see how their work is meaningful may be one of the most important things you can do now, and always for that matter, and it's free. I have one final quote that I'd like to share, and this comes from 5-time New York Times bestseller Malcolm Gladwell. And he says, "It's not how much money we make that ultimately makes us happy between 9 and 5. It's whether or not our work fulfills us." So as we think about what we can do to keep our staff happy and satisfied, understand what would be meaningful and think hard about what is realistic and something you can implement in your own organizations. Finally, I would like to switch it over to my co-host and so that you all can learn about our various tools and solutions available on Gordon Food Service.
Thanks, Kim. This is Allison speaking now. So we want to basically take a lot of those amazing ideas that Doug and Dawn and Lisa just gave you and hopefully strengthen them and give you maybe some tools to, okay, how now do I actually do that? Or maybe it is, you know, bringing people back, and how do I do that successfully? How do I get some help doing that? Just because everyone's strapped for time right now. So we're going to go over all these different tools and solutions that are available to you through Gordon Food Service now. Next slide, please. All right, so the first one here, we heard this mentioned earlier, but can you help feed your employees? Definitely a perk for them, but also their family potentially if it's something you want to provide to them to take home. So we have this now sort of in a package for you that utilizes the GFS frozen entrees that I'm sure you're familiar with, that we have always had. But what this is going to allow you to do is just make it easy. So the instructions that come along with this include, how do you portion it out? Whether you want to do family size portions for your employees or individual size portions. Not everyone, that works for you has a family at home. Some of them may live alone. But also it comes with labels that you can put on the package to repackage it. So they can reheat it at home. They can see the nutrition, the ingredients, if they, have those concerns with their family. There's over 20 meal options to choose from. So a lot of different options available to you. If you're interested in doing this for your employees, please reach out to your GFS sales rep. And I will say almost all of these solutions I'm going to talk about at the end, pretty much if you just reach out to your sales rep, they'll be able to give you that additional information to, hey, I heard about this, how do I get that? So keep that in mind. All right, so Kim did just mention too the concept of a micro market. So really, if you want to do something like this, we also have a helpful guide for you, really step by step. How do you make this happen for your employees? So what is a micro market? Well, it's basically putting a little version of a grocery store in your community or school or university. How nice, right? So that the employee doesn't have to make an extra stop on the way home to pick up food, or maybe before work if they were going to do that. So you can do it a lot of different ways, either a grocery box concept. I think Doug kind of talked about how they did this. You can do a family meal kit, or just grab and go items. So it can be as elaborate or as simple as you want it to be. And I think it just really shows your employees that you want to eliminate that extra things they have to do in their day, eliminate some of the stress in their life right now, but also keep them safe, right? So if they don't have to go in the grocery store, that's one less place to have to go and be exposed to people and things. So what a great perk to offer your employees as well. The next thing that we have are different white papers. This one in particular is called Staffing Strategies for COVID-19. This is indicated or intended for healthcare and senior living, this one in particular. However, I think there's a lot of great lessons in here, even for a school district or college and university. So if you can look past the word patient in here sometimes and think student instead, you could definitely use this as well. So it's a white paper, so it includes best practices, some stats. So this is really intended to help you if you need to go to your boss and say, here's some things I think we should do when we need to, bring more people back in when the time calls for that. How do we do it the right way? So this is available to you as well. So please reach out if you'd like a copy of this. Another thing that we have is something that we call our Attract, Train, and Retain and Motivate Guide. It's kind of a mouthful, but it's sort of a breakdown by the different generations. So there's, Gen Z, Gen Y, there's millennials, Gen X, baby boomers. And it talks about in this guide, and we've had this for, well before COVID started, we've had this for a number of years, but each generation and, what are they looking for with regards to work perks? How do they prefer to be recruited? So when you're hiring, where do you reach out to this type of generation? Is it on Facebook? Is it on Instagram? Is it in the newspaper? It differs based on the generations. What kind of traits do they have? So, maybe a certain generation would be better front of the house doing serving, and someone else, one of the other generations, based on their traits, maybe they might like being back of the house. So just an additional tool for your toolkit, basically, when you are thinking about, hiring people, but also as you go through training them, and also how to keep them happy when they are employed by you too. The next is our food service training topics. And this is something we were so happy to hear Dawn mention earlier in the webinar, that she used to keep employees engaged as they were at home so they could still pay them as staff. So these are prepackaged full PowerPoint presentations that we have. You can download them, and they come with presenter notes, a pre and post test with answer keys as well, activities they can do, a certificate that says they completed it. Many of them now also have a video option. So if you aren't going to present it in person, or download it and send it to them, they can watch the video as well. We have over 60 topics, lots of different categories, from food safety, obviously very important these days, so proper hand washing, hygiene, when not to come to work if you're sick, to sanitation, but also things like customer service, guest satisfaction. So a wide variety of topics all out there for you for free right on our Gordon Experience page. So please utilize these as well. The next thing is something we created years ago for senior living communities called the Wonderful Outstanding Wait Staff, or WOW, training series. So it talks about personal hygiene and appearance, serving etiquette, customer service, communication tips. Now we know if you're not doing, maybe communal dining right now, this may be less important, but when you get back to that, I think this actually becomes more important to really heighten the dining experience as people may be, nervous to come back into dining areas or just eat in any kind of group setting, how you can be professional, keep them calm. And it comes in many different formats. So you can either print out the training manual that it comes with, you can print the PowerPoint presentation or conduct the PowerPoint presentation, or play the video. So this is also available for you on our Gordon Experience page. Just waiting for you to reach out and use it if you want it. Our Idea Center is right on gfs.com, so anybody can get to it. You don't even have to log in to gfs.com like you normally do. We write all different kinds of articles and reach out to subject matter experts on the topics. We've been writing a lot of these lately. So some of the most recent ones we've had include the topic short on help, COVID healthcare labor strategies, employee satisfaction strategies. So a lot of these things we've talked about today, but in an article format, which is really nice if you want to just, hey, forward that on to so-and-so, or, maybe I'll bookmark this web page so I remember it when I'm trying to think about how can I keep my employees happy. So all of that great information out there for you as well. So next, I'm going to talk about some of our professional service vendors, which means they're companies outside of Gordon Food Service, but we've partnered with them to really give you additional solutions and opportunities. The first one here is called Ruby. This is an online professional culinary training program. It's very robust and it starts with the basics of nice skills and goes all the way up to, as far as you want to get with the skills. You can also be flexible depending on the size of your staff and organization. So I think Kim was going to click on the link there just to show you what the page kind of looks like when you get to that. It'll load here in just a second. If not, we can always jump back to it. Oh, okay. So you can see if she scrolls down here, they've obviously partnered with us, so you can get special pricing, obviously, through being a Gordon Food Service customer, but their packages are all kind of described there. So that's Ruby. That's one of our professional service vendors that can help you with training your staff, basically. The next one is called Culinary Cultivation. So this is specifically for food safety training, whether you need it for managers or just basic food handler training. There's also alcohol safety training, which many of you probably don't need, but they hold classes in currently Florida, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. So if you need any staff to become certified and serve safe, this is one option for you here that we've partnered with this great company. All right, the next professional service vendor that we have is called Traitset. So this is a workforce management software that helps you with onboarding, training, and scheduling. So pretty comprehensive. And we have a lot of customers that have utilized this professional service vendor with onboarding new people, keeping all of that organized, because we know that can be a daunting thing if you don't have necessarily an HR right in your building or community. The next one, pretty similar. It's called When I Work, and it comes in different formats, either a text format, emails, or even a web format you can use for scheduling shifts, just managing attendance in general, and communicating with your staff. So I know some of our speakers talked about like using Facebook or just different ways to reach your staff. I agree. I think if you can reach them in a way that's not just email these days, it's great because everyone's bombarded with email. So another option to think about there. And those are all of our, GFS solutions or professional service vendors that we wanted to make you aware of. And that really wraps up everything we were planning to go over with you all today. Now I think we're going to open it up to Amy, who will ask some questions as time allows to our panelists, and they'll answer them live for all of us.
Yeah, thank you. We did get a couple really good questions in, and just a reminder, you can use the question box within your go-to panel to ask any questions. I know we just have a couple minutes, but we'll see what we can squeeze in here. The first one I think is really good, and I can imagine maybe a common question. So I really like the ideas from the panel and also on the GFS solutions, but I struggle with quickly executing or implementing these new initiatives. Do the panelists have any advice on implementing a new program or a new training process? Doug, maybe I'll just start with you, and then others feel free to chime in.
You know, the first thing I have to do is decide on what is the goal? What are we going to achieve? And then figure out the steps we need to do to reach that goal. And then we put it into place. Then the next most important step is to listen to our team members who are actually doing the job. Okay, get feedback from them. And then quite often I'll just create a checkoff list that will show the different steps that they're doing in this new process. And then finally, after that is created and we've gone through, those steps for a while, I then create a training process. I mean, I put it all down as, what the exact process is. And it seems to work for me. I mean, I did it a couple times during this COVID-19 process with one thing as simple as cleaning our food delivery carts, just to make sure that everybody was following the exact same procedures, checking it off, just to make sure that when we're out there in the community delivering this food and those carts come back to us, we're sanitizing them and cleaning them and getting them ready for the next meal delivery. I mean, it's as simple as something as that.
Good, very good advice. I like what you said, kind of starting with the goal, thinking about the steps, and then even that process of listening for feedback as you implement it, kind of before you finalize it. Dawn or Lisa, anything to add on that question?
Sure, this is Lisa. I'll just jump in real briefly and just say my advice would be to be flexible, adapt, realize it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm saying this coming from someone who's a little bit of a perfectionist herself, and I have realized through this time that it does not have to be perfect. So just allow yourself a little bit of grace there and be flexible, be ready to pivot, and then think outside of the box and be creative.
With Dawn,
Very good.
it actually, I feel like both Doug and Lisa were inside my head. They answered everything. The only thing that I would maybe add is ask your staff, what do they feel they need to have more training on? What do they need to have? What are their strengths and what are their weaknesses? And maybe ask them to be a trainer if they feel confident in one area. And I feel like it's peer-to-peer is maybe a little bit more receptive rather than me always telling them what the training would be. And again, like Lisa said, be flexible and open to change, because it could happen within minutes.
That's really good advice. I love that kind of train the trainer approach that you mentioned, Dawn. And then Lisa, yeah, going back to the comments about flexibility. And I think a lot of people during this time had to kind of keep in mind progress over perfection. So really good advice all around. I'll do one more question here. I know we're coming up on time, but this one I think has some relevancy kind of beyond COVID-19. So with such an emphasis on labor efficiency during COVID-19, what is one thing you have changed or learned that will continue or perhaps even start to be implemented beyond COVID-19? Lisa, maybe I'll start with you this time and have the others jump in.
Sure. I think one thing that we will definitely, we've been talking about it for years, but just haven't, I think, done as great of a job with it and prioritizing it as we would have liked to, but certainly now realize even more so the urgency of that, and that will be the cross utilization of staff and the cross training of staff across areas, so that in the event that, whether it's, you know, COVID, God forbid we don't have anything like this that continues, but to get us better prepared for future, will be more focus and emphasis on cross training and cross sharing of staff.
Great point. Thank you. Doug or Dawn, anything to add there?
I completely agree with what was just said, because what Lisa said, very, very important, the cross training. I've always been proactive in that within my departments, but now we've seen how it can work, you know, with outside the departments, bringing other departments in and also assisting other departments. But for us as a company, again, I'm going back to our virtual general orientation program that we just rolled out. Like I mentioned earlier, what a relief it has been for each community on site to have the regional team manage the orientation for their new oncoming team members, because our orientations, it's not even department orientation, it's our training orientations for working in senior and independent living. It takes almost 5 business days to conduct that. So we've given back our managers in our communities all that time to spend on their team and on our residents. So that's something I'm very excited about. One good thing that's come out of this whole pandemic.
Very good. Yeah, who doesn't love the gift of time, right?
Yeah, amen.
The only thing I would add is that I have really had a chance to monitor how my staff is working and how they get organized. So I think that will be something I can move forward with when we come back, is really hone in on those, you know, how long does it take you to bag up 300 carrot sticks? You know, like really kind of buttoning on in that timing of and how long it takes them to do things, because I think efficiency wise, there's a lot of time that they lag.
Yeah, sounds like just a better pulse on that time management and kind of what to expect for those different tasks. That's great.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see here. With that, I think that's the main questions that we had come in. I'll turn it back over to Allison and Kim for any closing remarks.
Thanks, Amy.
This is Kim. I would like to express my gratitude to our panelists. Certainly know that we are still amid a pandemic, and your day is likely very, very busy and packed. And so we are so grateful that you were able to join us to share your insights and the things that you learned with the rest of our Gordon Food Service customers. And again, thank you for your time. And with that, thank you everybody that logged in to listen. And please reach out to us or your sales reps with any questions regarding some of the resources that we shared. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks to all our heroes out there too.
Keep going. You guys are doing a great job.
Have a great day, everyone.